family, as you know, were able to make the funeral, and none of, very few of us were able to make it ourselves. So we've offered you this opportunity, and Mark's mum, Anne, who can't be with us again because of the restrictions as indicated, she may well at some point make the journey, and if she does, we'll have this memorial for her to see. So I'm just going to hand over to David. I'm going to say a few words in remembrance of Mark.
Great, thank you. So to the family, my name's David Williams. I'm the chairman of Haig Housing. You know, in a charity with a 100-year history as illustrious as Haig's, you know, it's very easy to remember the high-profile events that we have and successes. You know, the royal visits, the impressive housing developments, and even the TV programs with the princes on it. And of course, these things are important and worthy of note. However, you know, in providing quality homes to improve the lives of veterans and their families, which is our raison d'etre, it's often the less visible and seemingly day-to-day things that can have the biggest impact on our veterans' lives. You know, it's the speedily repaired roof, it's the dilapidated kitchen replaced, it's the inefficient boiler replaced, it's the damp walls improved, and even as we can see around us, it's the ground that beautifully looked after and maintained. And in his time here at Haig, it was in these things that Mark made an immeasurable difference to the 1,500 families that Haig supports. And in many ways, it goes to the very heart of what we do and why it matters. So in my time as a trustee, I've always been really struck by some of the letters that Mark and his team received from our beneficiaries. And I ran across one yesterday in my study, which I think is typical, which we had about a year ago, that said, "We are thankful to you for giving an old veteran like me a comfy home, fixing our basic needs and giving us a chance to be reunited with our children. God bless you." Now, planting a tree on this estate, which Mark ensured was kept to such high standards, is a fitting tribute, and as it grows, it'll stand as a lasting memorial to Mark and his contribution. Clearly a contribution far too early curtailed by this terrible disease which we're still all coming to terms with. However, Mark's lasting legacy is also in the countless lives which he improved by his hard work and dedication. And it's been said that you can never know how many lives you've touched, just know it's far more than you think. And I'm certain that in Mark's case, that is very true. So in behalf of myself and Haig's trustees, I'd like to pay tribute to Mark's contribution to the lives of his fellow veterans, and hope that his family and friends will in time take comfort from the difference he made to so many.
Mark Horton served a very illustrious long career in the Royal Navy, stretching from 1972 through to 1997, 25 years of service, where he saw service on lots of different types of ships, following his specialisation, which was communications and electronics. And that gave Mark his grounding in the project management that he was so good at in his second career when he left the Navy. Mark had some particular highlights in the Navy, not all of which he necessarily spoke about. And we occasionally used to talk about it in May every year as we would gather and have a forecast of how the Army-Navy rugby match might turn out to do that. I was right more often than he was right, because he was wishful thinking most of the time. But nonetheless, we had a good laugh about it. In fact, when the Navy beat the Army about 6 years ago, Mark and I were both at Twickenham together. I had his phone number, and I found him out so we could have a beer in congratulation to him. And I'm wearing my Army rugby tie today, remembering Mark in that way. Mark was also involved in the Falklands War. He was on the Falkland Islands at Stanley when the Argentinians invaded. And I did a little bit of research as to what happened. Well, Mark at that time was the Chief Petty Officer of Communications on HMS Endurance, and that was the South Atlantic guardship at the time. And because intelligence had picked up that something was going to happen in South Georgia, they had to get some Royal Marines to go defend South Georgia very quickly. So what they did is they took off a lot of people from the ship and billeted them on the land so they could make room in bunks for what was to be about a week and a half's rough crossing from the Falkland Islands to South Georgia to strengthen the garrison there. Of course, as history, as we all know, what happened was although the Argentinians did indeed attack South Georgia, they attacked the Falkland Islands one day later. And Mark found himself with a bunch of Marines in Government House trying to defend it, and then eventually becoming a prisoner of war when they were overwhelmed. And I can only just sort of think about what emotions go through a sailor, a soldier, an airman's mind when they're captured in a conflict. Because that is exactly the roots that this charity started from, dealing with people who had those experience and emotions in their lives. So what better place for Mark to come to when he had his second career? I had a look at Mark's CV, and once he left the Royal Navy, he didn't settle anywhere. He had a 2-year job here and a 2-year job there, and eventually moving on to 3-month contracts at different places. He just didn't find a home. He didn't find somewhere where he was as comfortable as he had been for his 25-year service with the Royal Navy. But when he came here in March of 2013, he stayed. And I think that is a strong message of Mark finding home and home finding Mark again. And very, very quickly, he took to the way, he took to everything with the determination of, if something could be done better, of trying to do it better. He saved the trust an enormous amount of money by revitalising the way that we did our compliance work and did our gas inspections. But the money was only one part of it. And although Mark took some satisfaction in that, the fact that all of our beneficiaries were now living in properly heated and safe homes, that was the real motivation for him. And that was the mark of Mark, if you like. If it had an outcome that was good for business, well, that was good. But it was about looking after the people that we look after as a charity that really motivated him. And Mark particularly took time. We have one veteran living in Poole called Toby Gutteridge. And Toby was a Special Forces soldier with a Special Boat Squadron, lives down in Poole, and he was very seriously wounded in Afghanistan, so much now that he's virtually paralysed within his own home. And therefore the home that we bought with him just has to have so many modifications to help it to run, including a standby generator, because Toby cannot survive unless he's got some electrical assistance the way that he lives his life. And Mark would go down there 4 times a year, just one beneficiary, and just give that amount of time to making sure that Toby was getting everything that he could from our charity to support him. And that's the mark of Mark. That's what he would do. One beneficiary of the 1,600 that we look after, that he just devoted so much time to do.
I first met Mark when he was interviewed for his job. I was on the interview panel, picked him out as the worst of a bad bunch, but we gave him a job anyway. And he never worked for me then, but he worked for PSD. And so in 2015, when we went to the National Arboretum, which is a multi-acre site that houses over 400 memorials to the fallen and those who sacrificed, not just the army or the services, but also civilians and our blue light services. It was funny that this chap, who I knew was pretty much not really trying to make too many friends at work, just getting on with the job and so on and so forth. It was funny, I bumped into him in this massive wood. And the wood's called the Merchant Navy Convoy Wood. It covers about 6 acres, I believe. There are 2,538 trees there. And when I said to Mark, because he was wandering around in contemplation, I said, "What's up, big man? We know what you're doing here." He said, "This is the Merchant Navy Convoy Wood." And because I'm a civvy, I said, "Oh, fair enough." He said, "There were 2,500, I have to read it, 35 trees here, representing every single ship lost during the Second World War of the convoy fleet. So the fishing vessels and the supply ships. And that represented 46,000 lost people during that conflict." And that kind of made me think this guy runs a bit deeper. So I said, "Oh," in my civilian, fairly ignorant way. Then he said to me, "They were oak trees." And I asked him why they were oak trees. And he said, "Because oak was used to build the Navy's ships, such as Nelson's Victory, Cook's Endeavour, and King Henry's Mary Rose." Ah, now I kind of understood why Mark was walking around in this wood. I didn't have him down as a tree hugger, but clearly oak tree hugging in his way was fine. So it was a fitting tribute, we thought, that what we would plant was a British oak on our site to live for as long as it wants to, quite frankly. And that the memorial, when people come to see it, represents this, that Mark was our very own Haig oak. So he was a good friend of mine. I know a lot of you are friendly with him, and I hope that this is a fitting tribute, and from time to time you can come up and when you want a bit of contemplation, just have a wander around Mark's oak. Thank you.
The March of the Royal Navy is called Heart of Oak, and I'm going to read out the first verse and the chorus. I just want to qualify it because the second line of the first verse refers to a time when the Royal Navy had victory after victory, not of this year. Come, cheer up, my lads, 'tis to glory we steer, to add something more to this wonderful year. To honour we call you, not press you like slaves, for who are so free as the son of the waves? Heart of oak are our ships, heart of oak are our men. We always are ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again. Thank you.
If we'd like to take just a moment of contemplation, and then we'll disassemble.